All right, in worksheet 2, we were given names and asked to write formulas. In worksheet 3, we're given formulas and asked to write names. So very similar, just kind of flipping the idea. Remember that looking at a periodic table, metals that are in group 1, that are in group 2, or that are in this small little area right here that I call a little staircase area: silver, cadmium, zinc, indium, gallium, and aluminum. These metals that are colored in orange, those are the only metals on the periodic table that the charge is absolutely positively known. Everything in group 1, all the group 1 metals have a +1 charge. All the group 2 metals have a +2 charge. We come over here, silver has a +1 charge. Cadmium and zinc have a +2 charge. Indium, gallium, and aluminum have a +3 charge. So those metals we know the charges of. All the other metals that we see on the periodic table, so remember our staircase, we're looking at everything to the left of the staircase. All the other metals can have more than one charge. And the way we indicate that in a name is with a Roman numeral. The Roman numeral indicates the charge on the metals. The only metals that don't need the Roman numeral are these for which we know the charge for sure. All right, so looking at number 1, NaBr, we have sodium, our metal. So we're just going to name the metal, sodium, and then we're going to look at sodium and say, well, does sodium need to have a Roman numeral? No, indeedy it does not, because sodium is in group 1, so we know that its charge is always +1, so we do not need a Roman numeral to indicate the charge. So we're just going to leave it sodium. We're going to look at the second part. The second part comes from bromine. It's a bromide ion. So remember that when we have a nonmetal at the end of an ionic compound, we change the ending to IDE. So we're going to say this is sodium bromide. All right, let's look at the next one, number 3. Number 3, magnesium. Look on the periodic table. Does magnesium need to have a Roman numeral? Do we need to indicate the charge on magnesium with a Roman numeral? No, we do not, because we know the charge on magnesium. So we're going to write magnesium, no Roman numeral. This is a nonmetal. Nonmetals end in IDE in an ionic compound. So this is going to be magnesium chloride. All right, let's look at something that is a bit more interesting. All right, let's look at number 13. We have zinc and bromide, right? We have bromine in a ionic compound, so it's going to have the IDE ending. It's going to end in bromide. So we're going to write zinc. And then we're going to say, does zinc, do we need to indicate the charge with a Roman numeral? So we're going to come back on our periodic table. Well, zinc is one that we always know the charge is. Remember, silver's +1, cadmium and zinc are +2, indium, gallium, and aluminum are +3. So zinc, we always know the charge is +2, so we do not need a Roman numeral next to the zinc. We're going to just end it with bromide, zinc bromide. That's all there is to that one. All right, let's take a look at a couple of these from the back. This is the back of worksheet number 3. Let's look at the first one. Now notice that they've separated, so the front of the sheet, none of the compounds on the front of the sheet are going to require that Roman numeral. All right, but here on the back, It says determine the correct Roman numeral for the cation in each of the following ionic compounds, and then name the compound. So that's what we're going to look at now. All right. Cu is copper, so we're going to write the name copper. We know that copper is not one of our ions for which we know the charge. In other words, ions for which there is only one charge. Another name for that is univalent ions. Okay, univalent metals, they only have one charge. Copper is not one of those. Copper can have several charges. So we're going to need a Roman numeral, and we're going to have to figure out what is the charge on the copper in this compound. Then we look at the second part. This is nitrate. So we know we're going to have copper something nitrate. Now we need to figure out, well, what goes in the Roman numeral. So anytime we want to do that, we always start on the right-hand side with our anion. So our anion in this case is nitrate. Nitrate has a -1 charge, and we only have one nitrate. There's no there's no number outside of a parentheses for the nitrate. So -1 charge, and we only have one of them. That tells us that our total negative charge is -1. All right, that's getting a little cramped. Hopefully you can see that. All right, we know that compounds are neutral. That means that our total positive charge and our total negative charge have to add up to 0. So if my total negative charge is -1, my total positive charge has to be +1. I only have one copper, so that one copper must have a +1 charge. So our Roman numeral tells us the charge on the metal. So this is going to be copper 1 nitrate. Let's try another one. Let's look at number 3. Cr is chromium, so I'm going to write chromium. Again, I double check on the periodic table. Chromium is here. It's not in group 1, it's not in group 2, it's not silver, cadmium, zinc, indium, gallium, or aluminum. So chromium is going to need a Roman numeral. So I'm going to make a place for it right there. And then Cl is going to be chloride. All right, now I have to figure out, how do I find the charge on the chromium? So I'm going to start with my anion, which is my right-hand side here. My chlorine, or my chloride, has a -1 charge, but I have 3 of them this time. So -1 times 3 is going to be -3. That means that my positive charge has to be +3 to balance it out, and so that they add up to 0. I only have one chromium here, so that one chromium has to have a +3 charge. So I'm going to use a Roman numeral 3 to show that. All right, let's look at number 9. All right, number 9 looks a lot more complicated, so that'll be a good one for us to try. All right, 2 parts. CO, notice that this is an uppercase C and a lowercase o. That is one element. That is not carbon and oxygen. That is cobalt. So we have cobalt. And then our second, our anion in this compound is a polyatomic ion. Its name is chromate. So we take a look at where is cobalt on the periodic table. Here is cobalt. Does cobalt need to have its charge indicated by a Roman numeral? Yes, indeed it does. So I'm going to make a place on my name here for that Roman numeral. I'm going to put parentheses. Now I need to figure out what goes in that parentheses. So I'm going to start on the right-hand side. I'm going to start with the anion. I have to know chromate is a -2 charge. because the 3 is outside of the parentheses around the chromate, that tells me I have 3 chromate ions. So I have -2 times 3. That gives me a total of -6 charge. That means my positive has to be +6 because +6 and -6 have to add up to 0. But now, when I look, unlike in our last 2 examples, we have 2 cobalts. And those 2 cobalts together have to add up to +6. The charge on the 2 cobalts together have to be +6. So what charge could cobalt have where 2 of them, something times 2, has to be +6? Well, the only thing that could be would be +3. So each cobalt has a charge of +3. So I'm going to write a Roman numeral 3 in my parentheses for the name. So the name of this compound will be cobalt 3 chromate. Hopefully those will be helpful and you will be able to finish trying the even ones on both sides of worksheet 3.